In the 7th year of our engagement, I still hadn't gotten a wedding. After seeing him and Vanessa flaunting their love again, I threw away my engagement ring and booked a flight abroad. As I was boarding, a text from him popped up on my phone. "It's our engagement anniversary. Didn't you prepare a gift for me?" I smiled and replied, "I'm giving you your freedom. We're done." The phone screen was blindingly bright in the dark Tribeca penthouse. At 2 a.m., I came across that photo on my Instagram Explore page. The location tag showed a private beach party in the Hamptons. In the photo, Vanessa was wearing that couture suit jacket I just picked up for Grant from the dry cleaners last week, holding up champagne, practically hanging all over him. The caption was, "Some people just need to be by your side at the critical moments. Thanks, G, you are my lifesaver." And right now, it was supposed to be the celebratory dinner for our 7th engagement anniversary. The candlelight on the dining table had long burned out, leaving only a pool of solidified wax, looking just like my heart that has gradually grown cold over these 7 years. 3 hours ago, Grant sent a brief iMessage. "There's a PR crisis on Vanessa's end. The investors are making a fuss. I have to go deal with it. You go ahead and eat." Not even a word of apology. I stared at that photo for a full 3 minutes. No hysteria, no trembling hands, not even tears. In that moment, I only felt an unprecedented, absurd sense of relief, like a patient with chronic constipation finally getting unblocked, or the rope of a sandbag I'd been carrying for 7 years suddenly getting cut. PR crisis. I've heard this excuse for 7 years. The first time was when Vanessa had just debuted and got arrested for drunk driving. He went to the police station to bail her out. The 3rd year was when Vanessa went through a breakup. He flew to Paris to help her clear her mind, dumping me alone in a hospital ward for appendix surgery. Now, even on our anniversary, as long as Vanessa makes one phone call, he's still that lapdog at her beck and call. Only he's a lapdog worth over $100 million, wearing a Tom Ford suit. I stood up and walked to that huge walk-in closet. It was filled with the clothes he liked, those well-tailored, dull-toned Wall Street wife-style suits. Those colorful design sketches of mine had long been locked in the bottom drawer by him, dismissed as immature and unpresentable. I didn't pack any luggage. I just opened the safe and took out that custom diamond ring weighing 5 carats. That was what he gave me when he proposed. Back then he said, "Mia, put this on, and you'll be the most envied woman in New York." Looking at this stone now, it just feels like a joke. It's cold, heavy, and the sharp edges dig into my hand. I walked to the kitchen and stepped open that silver petal trash can. Inside were yesterday's leftover takeout boxes and some coffee grounds. I raised my hand and loosened my fingers. A muffled thud. That priceless ring fell into the cold leftovers, instantly swallowed by the filth. I turned around, grabbed my passport and that backpack I'd hidden under the bed ages ago, packed with nothing but a few changes of underwear and an old sketchbook, and walked out of this $20 million cage without looking back. While the elevator was going down, I sent Grant one last text. "Giving you your freedom. We're done." Then, the moment the Uber arrived at JFK Airport, I pulled out the SIM card, snapped it, and tossed it into the trash can at the airport entrance. Goodbye, Grant. Goodbye, goddamn New York. The sunshine in Los Angeles has a kind of almost violent brightness. As I dragged my exhausted body out of LAX, California's signature dry, warm breeze hit me in the face, instantly blowing away the bone-chilling cold of the New York winter. I've successfully enrolled in the Fashion Design Business College. This is an offer I got 7 years ago. Back then, Grant tore it to shreds right in front of my face. He said, "My fiancée doesn't need to go to this kind of place and show her face in public. Being the woman behind me is your best career." Now, I'm finally sitting in an open-air cafe on Melrose Avenue, holding a paintbrush in my hand, with a half-outlined design sketch in front of me. "Excuse me, is anyone sitting here?" A clear voice rang out above my head. I raised my head and against the light saw a face that was both familiar and unfamiliar. It was Ethan. My senior from college, the guy who used to always wear a white shirt and save a seat for me in the library. Having not seen him for a few years, he had shed his boyishness. He was wearing a casual linen shirt with the sleeves rolled up loosely, revealing the smooth lines of his forearms. Mia? He obviously recognized me too, the surprise in his eyes instantly turning into joy. It really is you. I thought I was seeing things. Senior Ethan. I was a bit dazed. He didn't ask much about why I was here, nor did he ask where that fiancé of mine who always monopolizes me had gone. He just naturally pulled out the chair opposite me, sat down, and waved over a waiter. 1 oat latte, iced, less sugar. That's what you used to like. It hasn't changed, right? He asked me with a smile. In that instant, my nose suddenly stung. 7 years. Grant never remembered that I don't drink whole milk. Every time he handed me a coffee, there was a thick layer of foam floating in it. My stomach always felt upset after drinking it, but he would just frown and call me delicate. Yet Ethan, a senior I only had a brief encounter with during college, actually remembered my preferences. It hasn't changed. I lowered my head, hiding the moisture in my eyes. Looks like you finally picked up the brush again. Ethan pointed at my sketchbook, his eyes gentle and focused. I've always felt there's a vitality in your designs that shouldn't be buried. We just sat in the sunlight and chatted all afternoon, from California's architectural styles to independent design brands, from FIDM courses to the waves at Malibu. No pressure, no walking on eggshells to please, just equality and respect. It had been so long since I felt this way, so long that it felt a bit unreal. Just then, my new phone vibrated. It was an unfamiliar number, but I knew who it was. It was probably Lin Wan, my only friend in New York, and the ally who helped me sort out my new identity and place to stay. I picked up the phone, and Lin Wan's gloating voice came through. Mia, you'll never guess what Grant looks like right now. He's going crazy. I held the ice-cold coffee cup, looking through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows at the tall palm trees outside, feeling completely calm deep down. Oh? Is that so? He just turned your previous apartment upside down. I heard he picked the ring you threw in the trash back out, washed it for 3 hours, and was throwing a tantrum there, asking the cleaning lady if she stole your stuff. I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Let him be. Hanging up the phone, I met Ethan's inquiring gaze. Trouble came knocking? He asked. No, I shook my head, a relaxed smile curling on my lips. It's the past that I've already thrown into the trash can. New York, Tribeca apartment. Grant sat on the expensive Italian leather sofa, his tie pulled askew, and the whole room was thick with the smell of smoke. Just moments ago, he had searched every single room like a madman. The walk-in closet was empty, everything belonging to Mia, those beige loungewear sets she often wore, that old hairdryer she had used for a long time, even half the skincare products in the bathroom, had all vanished. It was so clean, as if she had never existed in this home. Damn it! He kicked the coffee table hard, and the expensive crystal ashtray rolled onto the floor, shattering into pieces. He thought this was just another one of Mia's tantrums. It had happened before. As long as he bought a bag or lowered his head slightly to say a few soft words, she would obediently come back, continuing to iron his shirts and prepare hangover soup for him. But this time was different. Calls wouldn't go through, social media accounts were deleted, and he couldn't even contact her parents back home. His gaze landed on the old sketchbook he had dug out from the corner. That was the trash Mia hadn't taken with her. He flipped it open casually, expecting to see those boring drawings, but instead saw lines of shocking text. December 24th, Christmas Eve. He was spending Vanessa's birthday with her. I went to the hospital ER alone. The doctor asked where my family was. I said dead. February 14th, Valentine's Day. I waited at the restaurant until closing. The waiter looked at me with pity. I saw the group photo Vanessa posted in the trash can. May 20th. He tore up my acceptance letter. He said I don't love him. But Grant, love isn't control. It isn't breaking wings. Grant's fingers started to tremble. What was he doing all those days? He was enjoying Vanessa's adoration. He was whining and dining in the Vanity Fair, and he was taking Mia's waiting and sacrifices for granted. He had always thought Mia couldn't live without him. She was docile, silent, and non-aggressive, like a vine clinging to a big tree. But now, the vine had been uprooted, leaving him with nothing but a mess. "Grant, are you home?" The doorbell rang and Vanessa's sickeningly sweet voice came through. Grant jerked his head up, his eyes bloodshot. The voice he used to find pleasant now sounded like sharp fingernails scratching a blackboard, making him so irritated he wanted to puke. He strode over and pulled the door open. Vanessa, wearing that new Chanel, smilingly tried to throw herself into his arms. "Gee, why didn't you reply to my messages? Did that woman make a scene with you again? I told you she doesn't know how to behave. Get out." Grant squeezed a word out of his throat. Vanessa froze, the smile stiffening on her face. "What?" "I said get out!" Grant suddenly erupted with a roar, a violence Vanessa had never seen before. "Don't let me see you ever again. Get out!" He slammed the door hard, leaned against the door panel, and his body slowly slid down along the door. His hand was tightly clutching that sketchbook, knuckles turning white. A massive sense of panic finally seized his throat with belated realization. It seemed like he really had lost that girl, whose eyes were filled only with him. The pace of life in Los Angeles was as light and brisk as a pop song. I found an internship at an independent design studio named Oasis. The boss was an Asian designer who always wore exaggerated black-rimmed glasses, named Leon. He liked the unique style in my designs that blended Eastern restraint with American minimalism and gave me immense creative freedom. This afternoon, I was kneeling in the sample room adjusting the hem of a gown. "Mia, someone outside is looking for you." The receptionist girl poked her head in, looking a bit odd. Looks pretty rich, but his expression is scary. My heart skipped a beat, and the pin in my hand nearly pricked my finger. Walking out of the studio door, that familiar black Maybach was parked by the roadside, extremely obtrusively occupying 2 parking spaces. Grant was leaning against the car door, wearing a dark gray trench coat. He looked like he'd lost a lot of weight, and his stubble hadn't even been shaved clean. Seeing me come out, his dead eyes instantly lit up, and he rushed over. "Mia!" He reached out to grab my arm. I subconsciously took a step back and looked at him coldly. "Sir, please have some self-respect." Grant's hand froze in midair as he looked at me in disbelief. "Sir? Mia, what are you saying? I'm Grant. I'm your fiancé." "Ex-fiancé," I corrected, my tone even colder than a New York blizzard. "If your memory serves you right, you should remember the breakup text I sent you." "I don't accept it." Grant suddenly got agitated, that arrogance carved into his bones, surfacing again. "It doesn't count if you just declare it unilaterally. I know you're angry, I can explain. It was for the good of the company. Vanessa was just—" "Enough," I interrupted him, feeling incredibly fed up. "Grant, this is Los Angeles, not your Wall Street. Your gaslighting doesn't work on me anymore." "Come back with me." He tried to step forward again. "Stop messing around here. What kind of future can this crappy studio give you? I've already had that ring fixed. As long as you come back with me, we can get married right away." Married? It was like I had heard the biggest joke in the world. With you? That would probably be the most terrible curse in this world. Just as Grant lost his patience and was trying to drag me into the car by force, a large hand firmly blocked the way in front of me. "I wouldn't advise you to do that, sir." It was Ethan. He was wearing a simple t-shirt holding 2 iced Americanos in his hand, but his gaze was as sharp as a knife. "Who are you?" Grant narrowed his eyes, dangerously sizing up this man who had suddenly appeared. "This is between me and my fiancé. I'm Mia's friend and also her attorney." Ethan fished a business card out of his pocket and casually tucked it into Grant's pocket. If you continue to harass my client, I won't mind filing for a restraining order with the California courts right now. I imagine, as the CEO of a listed company, you wouldn't want to make the front page of the Wall Street Journal over a scandal like this, right?" Grant's face turned livid instantly. Having been in the business world for years, he naturally knew this was a naked threat, and an effective one at that. He stared dead at me. "Mia, over a pretty boy like this, you're going to burn bridges with me." I stepped out from behind Ethan, looked him straight in the eye, and said, articulating every word, "Grant, it's not for anyone. It's because I've finally seen you for who you are. The you right now makes me sick." With that, I took Ethan's hand and walked into the studio without looking back. Through the glass door, I saw Grant standing rooted to the spot, like a statue on the verge of crumbling. "Thanks," I said to Ethan. Ethan handed me the iced Americano and winked. "At your service, but can the legal fees be settled with a dinner?" I laughed. That was the most relaxed I've laughed in these 7 years. "Of course." Grant didn't give up. As a Wall Street predator, the word "give up" was never in his dictionary, only M and A and devouring. Since the emotional card didn't work, he planned to use what he was best at: capital. A week later, Leon called me into the office. On his desk sat a thick letter of intent for investment, the cover bearing the logo of Grant's venture capital firm. "Mia, someone wants to invest $50 million in our studio." Leon pushed up his glasses, his tone playful. "There's only one condition. I have to fire you and blacklist your designs across the entire industry." I stood there, my hands and feet icy cold. "Grant, you really are still that same Grant. If you can't have it, you destroy it. Is this your love?" "Leon, I wanted to explain, but felt my throat go dry. Don't be in a rush to speak." Leon interrupted me. He picked up that letter of intent, weighed it in his hand, and then a sound of rip. He tore that contract worth $50 million in half right in front of my face and threw it into the shredder. "Tell that Mr. Grant," Leon said to the secretary on the other end of the phone, his voice loud enough for me to hear clearly, "At Oasis, talent ranks above capital. This $50 million, let him keep it to buy himself a coffin." I looked at Leon in shock. Leon turned around and raised his eyebrows at me. "Don't look at me like that. I've seen your graduation design sketches. Once that series is released, it'll be worth far more than $50 million. Mia, you're a genius. Don't let that idiot define your worth." At that moment, the tears I had been holding back finally fell. It wasn't out of grievance, but from the emotion of being acknowledged. It turned out that leaving Grant's world, I really could shine. Meanwhile, Grant was flying into a rage in a 5-star hotel suite in Los Angeles. "What did you say?" "Refused." He smashed his phone hard against the wall. "Is that Leon out of his mind? $50 million, just to protect an intern?" He didn't understand. In his world where profit was everything, no one would say no to money. "Boss," the assistant stood trembling to the side, "there's something else. Miss Vanessa has posted a lot of insinuating updates on Instagram, saying you're being pestered by an ex-girlfriend and even hinting that Miss Mia copied her outfit inspiration." Grant whipped his head around, his eyes sinister. "Shut her up. Block her account immediately. If I see her post one more word, I'll make her completely disappear from the entertainment industry." He walked to the window, looking at the bustling night view of Los Angeles. He had thought that as long as he cut off Mia's way out, she would obediently come back and beg him, just like every time before. But now, things seemed to be slipping out of his control. That little girl who used to only hide in his arms and cry has grown claws and fangs, and even possesses her own knights and fortress. "Mia?" He murmured the name in a low voice, his fingers scratching a harsh sound against the glass. "You can't escape. Whether it's Los Angeles or the ends of the earth, you can only be mine." On the eve of the graduation show, the atmosphere on the internet suddenly became weird. Although Vanessa was warned by Grant to shut up, her socialite sister squad with millions of followers didn't stay idle. A batch of accounts suddenly surged on TikTok and Instagram, starting an organized attack on my designs. They dug up old photos from my college days, mocking my tacky outfits back then. They cropped detail shots of my unreleased designs, captioning them with clumsy imitation and soulless. Someone even photoshopped pictures spreading rumors that I worked as a high-end escort in New York. That's so disgusting. Sophie, a classmate and bestie I met at FIDM, was so angry she almost smashed her phone. "Mia, someone is obviously out to get you. We have to fight back." I was busy adjusting the shoulder straps of the finale gown for the model. Hearing this, I just smiled faintly. No need. Why, are you just going to let them throw mud at you? I put down the scissors in my hand, turned around to look at Sophie. "Sophie, when you stand at the top of the mountain, you can't hear the dogs barking at the bottom. Besides," I pointed to the collection titled Detachment. "This is the best counterattack. For this set of designs, I used a lot of deconstructionist techniques. Those lines that were originally meant to tightly bind the body were deliberately broken and stripped away by me, forming a kind of teetering yet unexpectedly balanced aesthetic. That was an indictment of the suffocating life of the past 7 years, and a declaration of rebirth. And at this moment, Grant was frantically dealing with the mess Vanessa left behind. Although he didn't directly authorize the source of that cyberbullying, it was clearly done to suck up to him. But the result? Public opinion didn't one-sidedly abuse me. Instead, because of the tough statement from Oasis Studio and the objective evaluations of my designs by several fashion bloggers, it triggered a wave of curiosity about the mysterious Oriental designer. "Is this the result you wanted?" Grant looked at the data on the tablet, his face dark as a thundercloud. "I want her to come back, not to make her famous." He suddenly realized that he was, step by step, pushing Mia to a height he couldn't reach. This sense of losing control was driving him mad. "Book me a ticket," he suddenly said to the assistant. "I'm going to her graduation show." "But boss, that requires an invitation." "Then go buy one, sponsor it, even if you have to buy out the whole venue," Grant roared. "I want to sit in the front row. I want her to see me at first glance." He straightened his tie, looking at his reflection in the mirror. Still handsome, yet unable to hide his haggardness. He was going to bring a bouquet of white roses. That was Mia's favorite flower, at least that was how he remembered it. But he forgot, besides pure love, the language of white roses has another layer of meaning. Dead love. On the night of the graduation show, the venue in downtown Los Angeles was ablaze with lights. Celebrities, buyers, and media from all over the fashion world gathered here. The backstage was as chaotic as a battlefield, but I was surprisingly calm. Ethan, as my special guest, had arrived early. He was wearing a well-tailored dark blue suit and didn't take a seat in the front row, but stood at the backstage entrance holding a bottle of Evian water to keep me company. "Nervous?" he asked. "A little," I said honestly, "but mostly looking forward to it." "You're going to stun the whole crowd." He reached out to tuck the loose hair behind my ear, his fingertips warm. "I watched the rehearsal. That was a masterpiece." Just then, a commotion came from the front of the house. I looked over through the backstage monitor screen, frowning slightly. The most conspicuous spot in the first row, originally reserved for the college dean, was now occupied by an uninvited guest, Grant. He was still the same, wearing an expensive bespoke suit, cradling a huge, exaggerated bouquet of Ecuadorian white roses. Amidst the avant-garde or bizarre outfits of the surrounding fashion crowd, he looked completely out of place, like a nouveau riche waving money around to crash the show. His eyes were fixed dead on the runway exit, and that look of being bound to get what he wanted made me feel sick to my stomach. "How did he get in?" Sophie asked angrily. "Probably money power," I sneered. Security can't stop a check. Do you want me to call someone to kick him out? No need. I composed myself, my gaze becoming firm. Since he wants to watch, let him watch to his heart's content. Let him see just how well I'm doing without him. The lights dimmed. The music starts up, not the traditional runway rhythm, but a slightly oppressive cello solo, followed by a sudden shift into intense electronic music. My models walked out. It was a power that carried a sense of brokenness. Pure white fabric was torn, revealing the bright red lining inside. The binding corset was undone, becoming a flowing shawl, especially the finale gown named Rebirth. The veil, originally symbolizing the shackles of marriage, was designed in the shape of burning flames. Every step the model took was like a phoenix undergoing nirvana. The whole venue went silent for a second, then erupted into thunderous applause. I took a deep breath backstage, preparing to take my bow. When I walked onto the runway with the models, the spotlight hit my face. I saw those stunned, admiring gazes from the audience, and I also saw Grant sitting in the front row. He stood up, holding that bouquet of roses, his eyes gleaming with a fanatical light. He thought I was wearing this for him, designing this for him. Such ridiculous narcissism. He took a step forward, wanting to rush onto the runway. "Mia!" Grant's voice sounded particularly grating in the gaps of the music. He ignored the side eyes of those around him, trying to climb over the low railing and rush onto the runway to shove that bouquet of white roses at me. In his eyes, this was supposed to be a touching reunion scene. The reformed CEO, the talented designer, getting back together under the spotlight. What a perfect script. Too bad the actor wouldn't play along. The moment his foot stepped onto the edge of the runway, two burly security guards blocked his path like two walls. "Sir, please return to your seat." The security guard's voice was cold and professional. "Get out of my way, I'm her fiancé." Grant shoved the guards, the rose petals in his hand scattering all over the floor, looking like a total wreck. All eyes in the venue focused on this spot, and whispers broke out everywhere. The originally perfect curtain call was interrupted by this farce. I stood in the center of the runway, looking down at him from above. The spotlight made it hard to see his expression, but I could imagine that twisted look of humiliation turning into rage. The host walked over somewhat awkwardly with the microphone, trying to smooth things over. It seems our designer has a very enthusiastic fan? I took the mic and signaled for the music to stop. The entire venue fell silent instantly, leaving only the sound of Grant's heavy panting. "Mia, come home with me." He looked up, his eyes holding a command that bordered on pleading. "Stop messing around. I know you're still angry. I was wrong. I was really wrong. For the sake of the 7 years. 7 years. 7 years again." I looked at him, suddenly feeling that the man before me was like a complete stranger. Is this really the man I loved for 7 years? Why didn't I realize before that his love was so cheap, selfish, and suffocating? I let out a light chuckle, my voice spreading clearly to every corner through the microphone. "Sir," my tone was calm, carrying a distant politeness, "I think you have the wrong person." Grant froze. "What did you say?" "I don't know you." I looked straight into his eyes. There was no hate in my gaze, only the indifference of looking at a stranger. "Besides, this is my runway show, not your private party. If you want to perform a public freakout, turn left out the door for Hollywood Boulevard. That place suits you better." The whole venue went into an uproar. Immediately, a burst of mocking laughter erupted. "Security, please show this gentleman who is disturbing the order out." I turned to the security staff and said, "Mia, how dare you? I'm Grant. I am—" His roaring was drowned out by the forceful actions of the security guards. Two big burly men hoisted him up from left and right, dragging him toward the exit like a dead dog. That expensive bouquet of white roses was trampled into mush, mixed with the dust on the floor, just like our rotting, stinking past. I turned around to face the audience again, flashing a confident and dazzling smile. Sorry for making a fool of myself. My work is titled Detachment, and its meaning is only by completely bidding farewell to the rotten past can one welcome a true rebirth. Thank you, everyone. The applause was thunderous and lasted for a long time. And at the end of the runway, Ethan stood in the shadows and gave me a thumbs up. The video from that night went viral. The hashtag fashion rising star rips into Wall Street scumbag, hashtag shot to the top of TikTok's trending list. In the video, the scene of Grant being dragged out like a madman was turned into all sorts of chaotic memes, with captions all saying, "This is what happens to average but overconfident men." But this is just the beginning. The real storm comes from Wall Street. The morning after the graduation show, major financial news outlets pushed out a bombshell. Grant's venture capital firm was under investigation by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission for suspected serious insider trading and financial fraud. It turned out that to fill the gap in the capital chain, to maintain his so-called dignity and recover my capital, he used the company's reserve funds and even violated regulations in several IPO projects. Originally, if these maneuvers hadn't been exposed, maybe they could have been covered up for a while. But his meltdown at the show last night instantly made him the focus of the entire internet and gave those competitors and regulators who were already watching him the perfect opening. It's truly a case of asking for a hammer and getting a hammer. Serves them right. Sophie scrolled through the news while eating popcorn. What's that saying? He who is unjust is doomed to destruction. I sat at my workbench, organizing the materials for the exhibition in Italy. Hearing the news, the tip of my pen just paused slightly, then continued writing. I heard his assets have been frozen. Ethan walked in, still holding that oat milk latte I love. Even his apartment in Tribeca has been seized. Vanessa sure ran fast, issuing a statement overnight saying she wasn't close to him and that they broke up ages ago. This is the so-called true love, I guess. I smiled mockingly. That man who was once insufferably arrogant and believed money could solve all problems finally suffered a crushing defeat in the field he was most proud of. He not only lost me, but also the power and status he relied on to survive. That afternoon, I received a call from Grant on an unfamiliar number. I knew it was him. I hesitated for a moment, but I still picked it up. Mia? His voice sounded like he had aged 10 years, filled with a desperate, deathly air. I have nothing left. I'm on the streets of Los Angeles right now. I don't even have money for a hotel. Could you lend me some money or meet me? I looked at the brilliant California sunshine outside the window, feeling absolutely nothing inside. Grant, I gave you a chance. I said indifferently. You're the one who blocked all your own ways out. I did it for you. If it wasn't to come find you, I wouldn't have embezzled public funds, wouldn't have— Enough. I interrupted him. Even now you're still blaming others. Grant, adults have to pay for their own choices. Your failure isn't because of me, it's because of your greed and arrogance. Mia, you can't be so heartless. I love you. Love? I laughed, a bit coldly. You only love that accessory that satisfies your desire for control. Now that accessory has woken up, you can't handle it. Don't call again. Save your breath for the federal prosecutor. I hung up the phone and blocked the number. This was the last conversation of our lives. 1 year later, the beach at Malibu was dyed golden red by the setting sun. The waves crashed against the rocks, making a rhythmic whooshing sound. Ethan and I sat side by side on the beach, 2 bottles of Corona beer at our feet. A lot has happened this year. My personal brand, Mia, was a huge success at Milan Fashion Week, and orders are already booked through next year. Ethan's architectural firm also secured a Pritzker Prize nomination. We're both shining in our respective fields and leaning on each other in life. What are you thinking about? Ethan turned his head to look at me, the sea breeze tousling his hair, making him look even more charming. I was thinking, if I hadn't thrown away that ring that day, if I hadn't gotten on that plane to Los Angeles, where would I be right now? I took a sip of beer, feeling the bubbles burst on the tip of my tongue. Probably still in that cold apartment, waiting for someone who was never coming home. Ethan held my hand, interlacing our fingers. Thank that brave you. Yeah, thank the self who still chose to save herself in the midst of despair. As for Grant, I heard he was convicted of insider trading and sentenced to 8 years. Before going to prison, he filed for bankruptcy. The former Wall Street hotshot completely reduced to a prisoner. The high society that once lifted him to the heavens forgot him in a blink, just like forgetting a speck of dust. Occasionally, I think of him, with no more hate and no more love, only a light sigh remaining. He is a scar of my youth. Though ugly, it reminds me that I once walked a crooked path, which makes me cherish the smooth road today even more. Look, the sun's setting. Ethan pointed at the horizon. The massive sun slowly sank into the sea, burning the whole sky crimson. It was an ending, but also a beginning. I leaned against Ethan's shoulder, closed my eyes, and took a deep breath of the salty sea breeze. So beautiful. Goodbye, past Mia. Hello, brand new future.